Everyone to What's the PCT podcast, where we are going to be spilling tea about being person-centered, not just at work, but in our real life. Thank you all for joining today. I'm going to start it off with introductions. My name is Laura Jules, and I am a person-centered thinking mentor. Jamie?
Hey everyone, thanks for joining. My name is Jamie Dyke. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and also a person-centered thinking mentor. Thanks everyone. I'm going to give it to Takesha.
Thank you, Jamie. Hey y'all, I'm Takesha Woodson. I am a certified person-centered thinking trainer in my day job, and we are going to have so much fun getting into our podcast and getting some tea about being person-centered. All right, ladies, so let's start with our first question. Now that we've all introduced ourselves, I want to hear from you. When you think of being person-centered, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Laura, we'll start with you.
Okay, so when I think about person-centered, the first thing that comes to mind is respect. Respecting the person's choice, respecting that person's ability to do, just ultimately respect.
Love that, Laura. I'm going to say mine is autonomy. I really feel like being person-centered means we respect and understand where we end and other people begin, and that we respect their autonomy and help to support that. And even if we disagree or think people are making choices that we may not make, that's not our choice to make. So respecting people's own autonomy.
Thank you. Those are both great things that come to mind when you think about being person-centered. For me, I'm going to say so many different things, but one of the top of mind things is going to be behavior is communication. I've had to learn kind of the hard way as a mom, right? Not always using words doesn't mean you're not saying anything or that it's not important. It just means that maybe we need to listen with our eyes instead of our ears, especially with kids or those that don't use words to communicate.
Love that. Love that. Listen with your eyes.
So
Behavior is happening in front of us and not to us. That's my mantra.
That's a tough one to get used to also, though, especially with kids. It's happening in front of you, not to you.
100%. Yep.
I feel like I need to incorporate that more. Behavior is happening in front of me, not to me. Oh my gosh, what a great perspective to have. I need to sit with that more.
Yeah, it's something, and I'll spill, my PCT this week is having those experiences with my kids. I have 3, 15, 18, 19, but one of them, my 15-year-old, I went into his room this week thinking I was going to relax and hang out with him. And he was like 30 seconds. He was like, nope. You got to get out. You got to get out of my room. I have my game set up. I got my friends on FaceTime. You got to get out of here. And I have to keep telling myself, okay, it's not personal. It's not like he's disrespecting me. His behavior is communicating that he's got to set up. He's chill. Mom in the room is going to probably mess up what his friends say and all of that kind of stuff, which is fine. So behavior is happening in front of me, not to me. So it's not like it's not personal to me. So someone else's experience in their world, how they're experiencing their world doesn't necessarily have anything to do with me, right? So it's constant in my head.
Laura, what's your tea for the week? Any PCT?
Yeah, so my tea is, balancing that important 2 and 4, right? With my 6-year-old, who I always say that she's 6, but she's going on like 17 or 18. And one of the things or the rules in my house is that we don't watch TV or there's no screen time during the week. However, on the weekends, they are allowed to, indulge in some screen time. And one of the things that I've introduced her to is some of the cartoons that I used to watch when I was younger, like Magic School Bus, Sailor Moon, Captain Planet, so she knows all those old school, or like what I like to call old school shows. And so, as we know, that the Magic School Bus can be extremely beneficial or educational. And so she she's like, Mommy, I want to watch Magic School Bus. I'm like, girl, we don't watch TV. But then I was like, you know what? She's so adamant about it. It's really important to her, but there's an aspect of it that can be beneficial to her as well. And so she, I gave her the opportunity to watch an episode. So she enjoyed that. So that's my tea for the week. What about you?
Love it. My tea for the week is I have to shout my husband out because I'm not a morning person. And I know we talk a lot about good day, bad day, and person-centered thinking, and ensuring that we're creating those good days by identifying what's important to someone and what supports they may appreciate. So for me, my PCT has been thank you to my husband for getting up in the morning. I'm not a morning person, and he understands that I definitely appreciate the support of him getting up, getting the kids up in the morning for school, and allowing me to get that little bit of extra sleep. So he saw what was important to me and the support that I would appreciate. And so I appreciate him for that. And he's also helping to create that power with dynamic, right, in our relationship. So I definitely appreciate that about him.
That's great, good for him letting you sleep in. And I also want to say good for you, Laura, for having, those rules in the house, but then also knowing when to be flexible with them when you recognize that, maybe in this context, this makes sense because it's important to her. And, so that's part of being person-centered too, is knowing when to be flexible and when to change the boundaries for whatever reason.
Yeah, I love that you set that up for your daughter to be successful by rewarding her with some screen time, because obviously she's got a great mom, but I'm sure she's a great kid as well. So shout out to you for recognizing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, and we're sitting here talking about being person-centered and what is, and when we notice it and how we support our kids or our families this week. So what does that even mean? Like being person-centered might have a different definition depending on who you talk to, but what does it mean to y'all?
I think it's about individuality, right? It all depends on the individual. It's not one thing for everyone. It's person-centered for a reason, right? It's specific to every person. It's specific to, the time frame in their lives. As we always talk about, what's important to someone right now may not be important to them, 6 months from now, or wasn't important to them 6 months later, 6 months ago. And so I think that it's really just about individuality, and it's not one particular thing that makes something person-centered. It really is individually based.
Yeah, a whole way of interacting with people. And I know we just asked that, but let me ask this, like Takesha, when did it click for you? When did you, because we all didn't just become certified trainers and mentors overnight. There was a period of time, we went through a process. When did you realize, oh, this is what being person-centered means?
Yeah, so great question, Jamie. I think that I realized how important being person-centered was before I even knew what it was called. 20 plus years ago, when my husband and I first got married, his father had gotten sick. He had had a stroke. And was put into a facility for a little while. And we kept getting phone calls. This was right before we got married, about him becoming combative with staff and falling. And we were like, wait a minute, what's really going on? So we made the decision to move him into our house. At the time, we didn't have kids. It was just the two of us. We had the space. We had the financial ability to take care of him. And so in order to make it work for everyone involved, we made sure he had a CNA there during the day while we worked. And we were there with him overnight. So y'all, I learned how to work a Hoya lift, clean a feeding tube or flush it out, refill it. I learned how to help brush teeth and wash hair from a hospital bed. And all of that was important to me because my husband's father was so important to him in his life. And so that just became more of a natural sacrifice. And a lot of what we did was very person-centered. And if you fast forward to me becoming a certified person-centered thinking trainer, I was just like, oh, this is what this is called, right? When you're going through the process and you're like, oh, I do this already, or, oh, I see this in myself, or, oh, I've done this for a loved one. And you're like, okay, so that's what it's called. And so now you can't take being person-centered away from me. That is like something I'm extremely passionate about. I probably get on my family's nerves pointing out things that they do that may not be so person-centered. But it also starts with yourself, right? You have to do some self-reflection and realize where you may need some help in being person-centered too.
That part. I love that, right? Because, one thing that we always say too in training is like when we're facilitating, we always tell people, some of the stuff you're already doing without realizing that you're being person-centered. And then to realize that, hey, you know what, this is all person-centered, and obviously learning more, but it's like something that's naturally done because you're helping, you want to support. Yeah. What about you, Jamie? When did it click for you?
I agree. It's probably always been there because I went to school for social work, and that's pretty much how social work is. We're taught to meet people where they are. right? Don't try to bring them to where we are. So that was always part of my mantra. And so when I got into the person-centered thinking certification process, that all kind of flowed with what, that was like, okay, this is what it's called. This is kind of in line with all of that. What I notice now that I kind of like live and breathe it more is when things aren't person-centered, right?
Yeah.
And I also notice, through training, there are people who are like, I wish I had this training 20 years ago. And I think it's actually also what really clicks for me, and still like learning, even though I've been certified, is that difference between fixing and supporting, and how being in front of that or recognizing that with everyone in my life, help, that can really click continual clicking. Like when I have responses to when I think I want to say something, I'm like, oh wait, no, that would be fixing. That's not supporting, so that would be me jumping into someone else's donut. Especially with the kids as they're getting older and making their own choices and living their own lives, that it's like, it's, constantly, what is in someone's donut, donut shift as you go through life stages when you're talking like, parent-kid dynamic. So I would say it's kind of always been there as a social worker, but I feel like there are little times when it clicks just all the time, like learning and when I see context change and things like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's the PCT.
That's the PCT.
Ladies, this has been
So
so much
PCT.
fun. Just chatting with you all about being person-centered. I think we should do this more often. I think we need to get together and have these conversations more often and humanize it, right? We want to make sure that people aren't looking at being person-centered as an extra task, but it's just something that comes natural to you. To see people and meet people where they are, see them for who they are as individuals, and support them in being able to have the life they want to live. So hopefully you all will join us next time for our next podcast. We're going to be talking about more things person-centered, bringing you more tea to sip on. And we're really looking forward to how amazing this is going to be. Ladies, thank you so much for joining in this Power With dynamic with me. Bringing PCT to our listeners and watchers. And thank you all so much again.
Thanks.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Cheers.
Cheers.